So no government actually now anymore dares to use the words herd immunity, but that's actually what is happening. Now, you're going to be in a situation in which the United States is threatening your health system. Well, it's quite clear if you look at the facts, not the rhetoric, that two different strategies have been pursued. The first one is what I would call an eradication strategy. That means that the attempt is to reduce the virus down to zero. As there is no vaccine, as there is no cure, the only way that this can be done is by breaking up social contact. Therefore, that's why you have the lockdowns, etc. Now, this is provenly successful. It can be done. Some people in the West have attempted to claim that it can't be done, but it has been done. Let's look at the situation. So there's two strategies. One that was most successful is the one in China. The dynamics in China are extremely clear. The lockdown in Wuhan, in Hubei, started on the 23rd of January. The number of cases then continued to rise for 12 days and peaked on the 4th of February. It then took 6 weeks to get the number of cases down to the first day for zero. It wasn't stabilized at zero. It took a little bit longer, about another 2 weeks to get it down to that point. As I say, 10th of March is the time when every day since the 10th of March has been less than 20 cases a day. Now, that meant that you could therefore get a grip on the virus either in 8 weeks or 10 weeks, depending which way you want to measure it. Okay. Similarly was done, something similar was done in South Korea, where there was a serious outbreak, and South Korea has got the number of cases down, again, also very close to zero. You have some localized problems, some problems of irresponsible people running nightclubs and things of that type, but that can be under control. So you do that. Also, some other countries in Europe have been very successful. For example, the Slovak Republic has got basically Asian levels of deaths. It's less than one a day, right? Because they had a very serious lockdown. This was good government policy. Therefore, you've got a situation whereby you can get the virus under control. The second one is the one which was called herd immunity. Now, this has become so notorious that no government will admit that it uses a policy of herd immunity, because what the population understood very rapidly, that what herd immunity means that you let tens of thousands of people die, and then the rest of the population is supposed to get immune. Well, people didn't want tens of thousands of people dying, particularly because it might be them. So no government actually now anymore dares to use the words herd immunity, but that's actually what is happening. If you look at the situation in the United States, when you're lifting a lockdown where you're getting around 2,000, 2,500 deaths a day, where you're getting tens of thousands of cases a day, you're actually pursuing a policy of herd immunity. Sweden is also pursuing this policy. Britain, there's a bit of a fight going on because Britain used herd immunity, and the opposition from the public was so strong that the government was then forced to drop this as approach. But what these policies mean is we'll call it herd immunity even if you don't use the words. That means you let the virus run and run, right? Basically, you accept there will be tens or even hundreds of thousands of deaths. Okay. Well, the problem for the world is that you can't separate the world out. I mean, if it were the case that Americans decided that they wanted to be killed in large numbers in order to lift the lockdown, well, you could say, well, that's a very stupid decision. And actually, I don't think it is what all the polls show. It's not what the American people want. But you could say, okay, that's, if Americans want to die in large numbers, that's up to Americans. But the problem is that in our world, you can't separate it out. It means that the United States is, on its present course, is going to become a huge area of unhealthy disease threatening the entire world. Every country is doing that. You've got doing that. The other place you've got a herd immunity strategy, really, you've got, for example, is Brazil. That's going to threaten the whole, particularly of Latin America. And therefore, countries are going to have to take very serious choices about this, because you can't disconnect these two parts of the world. as I said, every case, every aeroplane that arrives from the United States is a threat. Previously, if you were an ally of the United States, you might have had economic problems. For example, the attempt to ban Huawei from participating in 5G, the attempt to stop the construction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany, etc. Now, you're going to be in a situation in which the United States is threatening your health system. And also a situation in which that will have political consequences, because if governments suddenly allow large numbers of deaths to take place, well, these politicians are going to become unpopular. So there are two quite clear strategies which are being pursued in different parts of the world. One I'll call the Asian strategy, except I'll include Australia and New Zealand into the part of Asia, and also being pursued in parts of Eastern Europe. For example, there's a very big difference between the situation in Eastern Europe and Western Europe. In quite a lot of the East European countries, the death toll is very low because they had very early lockdowns and took lessons from Asia. So therefore, these are the two strategies. But the problem is there's only one world, and therefore these two strategies are going to collide with each other. One is silly ideological reason. They didn't want to learn from China and they didn't want to learn from Asia. I must say that is beginning to disappear. For example, all Asian countries got all their citizens to wear face masks. It's one of the most fundamental things. The West European countries didn't wear face masks. They didn't want to learn. That was a silly ideological one. It represented a sort of arrogance in the situation, I think. The second was related to that some countries wanted to pursue this herd immunity strategy. And the third one is the economic interests. I've explained, and if you see the situation in the United States, it's right-wing Republican governors tied to business who are trying to open up the economy. And in Britain, it's the millionaire press who just print falsifications. They say there's a big demand from the population to lift the lockdown, whereas all the polls show absolutely that the population is strongly opposed to lifting the lockdown. So it's a real clash between some economic interests. So again, for example, the Tory party, 6 of the biggest donors towards the Conservative Party in Britain, all of whom are millionaires and some of whom are billionaires, made pressure. They wrote up, they informed the Sunday Times that they wanted the lockdown lifted. It hasn't been done. Because of the popular opposition, but there's pressure for them to do it all the time. The difference, therefore, you have, for example, in the United States and Britain, is in China, you had a situation in which the government was attempting to protect the population. It wasn't enough simply government action. You had to have social action. And I'm not trying to make romantic things. I mean, absolutely every single thing was done perfectly or something. No country does everything perfectly right. But fundamentally, the government was attempting to protect the population. If you take the United States or Britain, the government is not. The government is trying to undermine the lockdown all the time, and it's threatening the population. It's a real clash of social forces.